Karen's smug grin could curdle milk. She stood on Mama's porch, waving a legal notice like a victory flag, her voice dripping with condescension. "This ranch is an eyesore. Agnes." She spat, her chins wobbling as she gestured at the sprawling Montana land Mama had tended for 7 decades. At 93, Mama clutched her cane, her frail frame trembling not from fear but from rage at this HOA tyrant who'd terrorized the neighborhood for years. The Harmony Hills Homeowners Association had been Karen's kingdom since she bullied her way into the presidency. She'd turned a quiet community of ranches and homesteads into her personal fiefdom, finding people for untrimmed hedges, unauthorized mailboxes, or, in Mama's case, unsightly barns that had stood since the Great Depression. Karen, with her garish pink tracksuit and superiority complex, didn't care about history or heart. She wanted control, and Mama's 50-acre ranch prime land for developers was her latest obsession. Mama's ranch wasn't just land. It was her life. She'd raised 3 kids there, buried a husband, and weathered blizzards and droughts. Every fence post, every weathered board, held a story. But Karen saw dollar signs. She'd been hounding Mama for months, claiming the property violated HOA codes, threatening liens and foreclosure. Mama, stubborn as the oaks lining her drive, refused to sell. "This is my home," she'd whisper, her voice cracking but resolute. That day, Karen had crossed a line. She'd shown up with a lawyer, a weaselly man named Harold who clutched a briefcase and avoided eye contact. "You've got 1 week to comply, Agnes, or we'll seize the property," Karen barked, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Old Mr. Jenkins, who lived down the road, watched from his truck, shaking his head. The air crackled with tension, the kind that precedes a storm, literal and figurative, as dark clouds rolled over the mountains. Mama stood her ground, her voice steady despite her age. "You'll have to drag me out, Karen. This land's been mine since you were in diapers." Karen scoffed, her laugh a grating cackle. "We'll see about that, old woman." She turned on her heel, her lawyer scurrying behind her, leaving Mama alone on the porch, the legal notice fluttering to the ground like a dead leaf. What Karen didn't know was that Mama wasn't alone. Not anymore. That night, a pickup truck roared down the dirt road, kicking up dust under the moonlight. It was Ethan, Mama's youngest, a Navy SEAL who'd been overseas for months. At 38, Ethan was a mountain of a man, broad shoulders, scarred hands, and eyes that could freeze a man's soul or warm it, depending on his intent. He'd gotten Mama's tearful call 2 days earlier, her voice breaking as she described Karen's threats. Ethan didn't hesitate. He took leave, boarded a plane, and came home. Ethan stepped out of the truck, his boots crunching on the gravel. Mama was waiting on the porch, her eyes lighting up despite the worry etched into her face. "You didn't have to come, son," she said, but her trembling hands betrayed her relief. Ethan hugged her gently, his voice low and steady. "No one threatens my mother." He picked up the crumpled notice, his jaw tightening as he read Karen's demands. "This ends now." The next morning, Ethan drove to the HOA office, a squat building Karen had insisted on repainting neon yellow. Inside, Karen sat behind a desk cluttered with rulebooks and complaint forms, her manicured nails tapping impatiently. Harold lingered nearby, adjusting his tie nervously. Ethan didn't knock. He walked in, the door swinging wide, and dropped the notice on her desk. "You're done harassing my mother," he said, his voice calm but laced with steel. Karen didn't flinch. She leaned back, smirking. "Oh, the war hero returns. Think you can scare me? Ethan, this is legal. Your mother's ranch is a blight, and I have the authority to act." She waved a hand dismissively, as if Ethan were a fly to be swatted. Harold nodded eagerly, chiming in with legalese about community standards and eminent domain. Ethan didn't blink. He pulled out his phone, where he'd recorded Mama's account of Karen's months-long harassment, every threatening letter, every unannounced visit, every snide remark. He'd also dug into Karen's reign as HOA president, uncovering complaints from dozens of neighbors, fines for minor infractions, bullying tactics, even rumors she'd pocketed HOA funds. "You've been running a racket," Ethan said, his tone even but deadly. "And I've got proof." Karen's smirk faltered, but she doubled down. "You can't touch me. I'm untouchable." She jabbed a finger at him, her voice rising. "This neighborhood bends to me." Ethan leaned forward, his presence filling the room. "Not anymore." What followed was a masterclass in precision. Ethan didn't raise his voice or throw a punch, though Karen's lawyer looked like he expected both. Instead, Ethan mobilized. He called a community meeting, something Karen had avoided for years. Neighbors poured in, their grievances spilling out. Karen's $500 fine for a wrong shade of mailbox paint, her threats to foreclose on a widow's home over a cracked driveway. Ethan presented his evidence, including financial records showing Karen's questionable fees funneled to a shady LLC. The room buzzed with anger, but Ethan kept it focused. He proposed a vote to dissolve the HOA entirely, citing Montana law that allowed it with a majority. Karen stormed in mid-meeting, shouting about her authority. But the tide had turned. Neighbors who'd cowered under her rule now stood tall, their voices drowning her out. By night's end, the HOA was disbanded, Karen's power stripped away. But Ethan wasn't done. He filed a formal complaint with the county, triggering an investigation into Karen's financial dealings. The lawyer, Harold, cracked under pressure, admitting Karen had coerced him into drafting questionable notices. The evidence piled up: embezzlement, harassment, abuse of power. Karen's empire crumbled as quickly as it had risen. The final blow came a week later. Karen, desperate to save face, showed up at Mama's ranch one last time, screaming about lawsuits and revenge. Ethan was waiting. He didn't touch her, didn't need to. He handed her a cease and desist letter, drafted by a pro bono attorney friend. "You step foot here again, and you'll answer to me," he said, his voice quiet but unyielding. Karen's face turned purple, her insults incoherent as she stomped to her car. Neighbors watched from their porches, some clapping, others shaking their heads. Karen's downfall was the talk of Harmony Hills for months. The county investigation led to charges of embezzlement and fraud, with a side of harassment. She lost her house to legal fees, her reputation shredded. The ranch, though, stood untouched. Mama, reinvigorated, spent her days tending her garden, Ethan at her side when he wasn't back on duty. The community rallied, too, helping repair Mama's barns and fences. A quiet apology for years of silence under Karen's reign. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, Mama sat on her porch, Ethan beside her. "I didn't think I'd see this place safe again," she said, her voice soft. Ethan took her hand, his eyes on the horizon. "No one's taking this from you, Mama. Not while I'm here." The ranch was more than land, it was a testament to resilience, to fighting for what's right. Karen had thought she could bully her way to victory, but she'd underestimated the power of family, community, and a son who'd faced worse enemies than her. Her greed had built her throne, but it was her arrogance that burned it down. The end.